get ready to turn in. I'm gonna get out my glue sheet, and I'm gonna work with the long edges first just because I know they'll be the toughest. Get them out of the way. I'm gonna put down my layer of glue just like I've done before. You know, a decent amount, not too much. I don't want it to get pushed out onto the book when I fold it over and make a mess. So, a nice layer on there. I'm going to get my glue sheet out of the way so I don't get glue on my board. And then I'm just going to do what I did before. Use the table to press that on and then flip it open. If it hasn't 100% gone down, I'm going to come along with my bone folder and just double check everything, because I really want the cloth to be flush with the board. And cloth is definitely harder to make the turn with because it's just stiffer than the paper is most of the time. And then I'm going to come in here, smooth it out. And then I'll repeat that process on the top edge. Get myself a new glue sheet. One way that you can make it a little bit easier to fold the cloth over is to actually make the fold before you apply the glue. I still haven't done that in this case. Another thing you can try if that other method is proving difficult is to really just use the bone folder to work the fold and then just pull it down and over. And then just make sure it's getting good adhesion. Okay, now we need to do the short edges, and as before, I'm going to go ahead and pinch in these little corners, because if I don't, you'll see when I fold it over that I get this little bit of flap at the top, and I really don't want that. So pinching it in, pinching it in. I'm going to do that at both ends. And then I'm going to go ahead and get myself a glue sheet. In this case, I may actually go ahead and just so you can see it, work that curve, work the fold before I actually apply the glue so that it's ready to make that turn without a lot of assistance. Get my layer of glue. Work the fold. And then do the same thing on the other end. Sheet out of the way. Use the bone folder to make that curve for that turn start, and then just push it down. And I have my cover ready. Now all I need to do is apply the inset. So as you can see, I've put my inset in. I had a little bit of a recording glitch when I tried to do that, so I'm going to just walk through the steps again without actually having to do them since my inset's in and I can't undo that. If I had a piece of paper, if this were my inset piece, what I would do is just apply on a glue sheet a light layer of glue all over it. Just being careful, I don't want to put too much because I don't want it to get, you know, wrinkly and rolly, but I would put enough, and then I would just very carefully center that right up inside the inset box and then work it down with my bone folder till I got to this place. I'm sorry I wasn't able to capture that on video, my apologies. But this is certainly what the finished product looks like. It's much easier to sort of really get the sense of the depth in person, but it's a nice way to add a little something to the cover and have it be a nice and clean, and it doesn't, the inset protects it, so you don't have to worry about it peeling off as much or having any of those kinds of issues, whereas if you just glued a piece of paper on here, that might be a problem. So it's a really great look, I think. So now I'm ready to case in. You can tell, even just taking a quick look at this, that a couple hours in the press really did make a difference on this. You remember before how it was bowing out and it was really just not wanting to lie flat, but that time in the press has helped resolve that potential issue. So now I've got my cover with my inset and my text block, and I'm going to case it in exactly the same way that I cased in the other books. I'm going to apply glue out here, center it up, press this down, and then lay in my end sheets. So we'll go through that now. Pick a glue sheet that I know is clean. Then I'm going to apply a light layer of glue along the paper-backed side of the cloth. Get rid of my glue sheet. And then I'm going to take my book cover and I'm going to go ahead and center this up. And it's worth noting that sometimes when you're working with a taller book, this can get a little bit trickier. As you can see, my pages really want to flop over and I don't have a great way to support them. Fortunately, this is one of those things that can be pretty forgiving of you, so as long as you get it more or less centered, it's probably going to work out all right. Once I've got it down in there, I'm going to go ahead and just really work the fabric down, make sure it's sticking. And as you can see, that's in there nice and tight. So now I need to add my end sheets. To add the end sheets, I'm going to follow the same process I did with my quarter cloth book. I'm going to get myself a piece of glue sheet and my end pages. I'm going to start by putting down a layer of glue on the cardboard because, as I've said already, I want to make sure that when I can, this is where I'm applying glue. It'll curve some and you'll see that as you're working on your books, but it's not going to get nearly as tricky to work with as paper can when it's moist. Okay, once I've got a good layer down there, set that aside for a moment, take my end sheet and apply that layer of glue on all the edges. Carefully pick that up off the glue sheet. And then I'm going to center this up on the cover. And press it down from the middle to the outside edges. If you get a little bit of wrinkling or bubbling, as I've said before, it's really probably okay. Chances are pretty good that when you press it, that's going to dry out and flatten out with the weight of the pressing. So now I'm ready to add the other side. Start off with gluing up my board. my glue sheet and my piece of end page. And I am going to be careful because these do have a right side up to make sure that before I paste them down, I've got them right side up, and I do. Slide that out of the way. Go ahead and just apply that light layer of glue to all the edges. Carefully pick it up off my glue sheet. Get that out of the way. Last thing I want to do is mess up this great book I've been working on. And then I'm going to take this, center it on the cover, and press it down from the inside of the page all the way to the outer edges. Then I'm going to get some waste sheets, put it in here, and press it for at least 8 hours, if not overnight or even a full 24 hours. I'm going to put at least 2 sheets of waste paper between the cover and the text block on the front and the back so that I can make sure to absorb that moisture. I really don't want to see my text block get damaged by the moisture from the glue. And I do want to make sure that those waste sheets are bigger than the book because otherwise they might cause lines that I don't want to appear in the cover. So one question you might want to ask is, if you can do full cloth, can you do a full paper book so that you don't have to work with any cloth at all? The answer is that you could certainly experiment with that. Typically though, what you'll find is that the paper just isn't as durable, and this spine really needs something strong to help hold it together, something that won't get worn out from bending over time and tear, something that you can't puncture very easily with, say, a fingernail or even a pen or a pencil. And I have experimented with full paper covers myself, and they almost always inevitably wind up coming down to one of those issues there. They just get worn out and they tear, or they get punctured by something. So welcome to experiment with it, test it out. Some papers might work better than others if they were a thicker paper to begin with, but it's just not as certain choice. So, all right, this is off into the press.